What's going on, everybody? In today's video, we're diving deep into one of the most notorious outlaw motorcycle gangs in the world, the Bandidos. From their origins in Texas to bloody battles across continents, the Bandidos have become more than just a motorcycle club. They're a symbol of loyalty, defiance, and a violent code that has kept them both feared and fascinating for decades. Over the next several minutes, we'll take you through their rise, their international rivalries, their clashes with law enforcement, and the internal struggles that have threatened to tear the Brotherhood apart. This is the story of the Bandidos, their enemies, their courts, their wars, and the legacy that still drives them today.
Today, our partners in the U.S. Attorney's Office in Houston announced charges against 14 members of the Bandidos outlaw motorcycle gang.
Law enforcement describes the Bandidos as criminals operating under a veil of brotherhood. But within the club, loyalty is the highest currency.
Bandido 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, no matter where I am.
One member once declared. That statement encapsulates the ethos that transformed a small group of bikers into a sprawling international organization. The story begins with one man who refused to return home quietly. Donald Eugene Chambers came back from the Vietnam War in the mid-1960s to a country that offered him neither recognition nor purpose. Trained for combat but stripped of civilian direction, Chambers decided that if the world wouldn't provide structure, he would create his own. In 1966, in San Leon, Texas, Chambers founded the Bandidos Motorcycle Club with a group of like-minded riders, all seeking purpose and belonging. Their emblem, a sombrero-wearing figure wielding a pistol and machete painted in vivid red and gold, became an instant symbol of defiance. The original members were oil field workers, mechanics, veterans, and blue-collar outsiders looking for brotherhood. Despite minimal resources, Chambers enforced a military-like discipline. Meetings were run like army briefings, and disobedience brought immediate consequences. By the late 1960s, the Bandidos had secured a foothold across Texas. What started as a small band of restless men on motorcycles had grown into a brotherhood bound by rules and codes. Once Texas was firmly under their influence, the next step was clear: expansion. Chapter 2: Expansion and Growth. From a single Texas chapter, the Bandidos spread like wildfire. In the next 20 years, their red and gold patch appeared on 3 continents. By the mid-1970s, the club had claimed the American South, moving into Louisiana, Oklahoma, and New Mexico. Smaller clubs were absorbed with a clear message: patch over and gain protection, or risk being pushed aside. The strategy was brutally effective. Houston, Dallas, and San Antonio became strongholds, giving the Bandidos a platform for international growth. The first overseas expansion came in 1983, when a split within Australia's Comanchero Motorcycle Club led to the creation of the first Bandidos chapter in Sydney. Within a year, the defection turned deadly. The feud culminated in the Myla Massacre, a Father's Day shootout that claimed 7 lives, including that of an innocent teenager. While Australia grappled with chaos, Europe became the next battleground. By 1989, a chapter opened in Marseille, France, and soon the patch appeared in Denmark and Sweden, regions with decades of biker culture. However, expansion came with risks. Scandinavia was already under the influence of the Hells Angels, and a violent collision course was inevitable. The Bandidos' strategy was consistent: identify disaffected local clubs, offer the Bandido name, discipline, and backing, and if refused, crush them. By the end of the decade, the Bandidos had become a global organization. This rapid ascent meant one thing: confrontation with the Hells Angels was no longer a question of if, but when. Chapter 3: Rivalries with the Hells Angels. From the outset, the Bandidos were chasing the same throne already claimed by the Hells Angels. In the US, skirmishes erupted in border states over drug and gun routes. But it was in Scandinavia during the 1990s that the rivalry truly escalated. Territorial disputes, street control, and recruitment battles spiraled into open warfare. Governments would later dub it the Nordic Biker War, marking one of the bloodiest conflicts in outlaw biker history. In March 1996, Hells Angels gunmen ambushed the Bandidos at Copenhagen Airport, killing chapter president Uffe Larsson and wounding 3 others. Hours later, Oslo experienced a similar attack. The Bandidos retaliated, and months later, a rocket struck a Hells Angels clubhouse during a party in Copenhagen. 2 civilians were killed and 19 were injured. Escalating violence drew global attention. Law enforcement. Crackdowns followed, but the bloodshed only intensified. The Hells Angels responded with explosives. In Norway, a van loaded with 50 kilograms of fertilizer-based explosives detonated outside a Bandido clubhouse. A 51-year-old passerby died, and 22 others were wounded. Targeted Bandido Michael Garcia survived. But the message was clear. This war was merciless. By 1997, nearly 100 people, including civilians, had died. Under mounting pressure, the presidents of both clubs appeared on Danish television in September 1997, shaking hands in an uneasy truce. While the truce ended open war, the rivalry never disappeared. By 2010, another peace deal was brokered in Germany under government pressure. Hostilities remained elsewhere. Scandinavia saw renewed shootings, while North America and Australia continued violent clashes. Every truce was temporary. The rivalry remained the driving engine for both clubs. Chapter 4. Law enforcement crackdowns. By the 1990s, the Bandidos faced threats from 2 fronts: rival clubs on the streets and governments in the courts. Operations like Operation One Enter from 1985 to 1986 targeted outlaw clubs across 18 states, leading to 68 arrests and the seizure of weapons and drugs. The message was unmistakable. The US government viewed biker gangs as organized crime syndicates. Europe followed suit. Germany and Denmark raided clubhouses, confiscating assault rifles, bulletproof vests, and financial records linking members to extortion and contract killings. Germany even declared the Bandidos a criminal association, enabling police to shut down chapters and seize assets. In 2017, the Netherlands dissolved its national chapter, citing the club as a permanent threat to public order. Canada launched Operation Amigo during the Quebec Biker War after the Rock Machine patched over to the Bandidos in 2002. Coordinated raids arrested 62 members, leading to the collapse of the Bandidos' Quebec presence. The battlefield had shifted to courtrooms. The US culminated this strategy in the 2018 San Antonio trial of National President Jeffrey Fay Pike and Vice President John Xavier Portillo. Both were convicted on racketeering, conspiracy, and murder charges. Pike received life plus 10 years, and Portillo received 2 consecutive life sentences without parole.
For Bandidos, National President Jeffrey Fay Pike and ex-Vice President John Xavier Portillo found guilty in a 13-count indictment.
This was the first time US prosecutors dismantled the Bandido leadership openly. In February 2025, federal prosecutors unsealed a 22-count RICO indictment against 14 Houston members, citing murder, robbery, and racketeering tied to a turf war with a rival gang known as Beast. Prosecutors described orders from leadership to attack rivals on sight. The Bandidos, proud of brotherhood and defiance, were portrayed in court as a motorcycle mafia. Operations weakened them, but did not destroy them. Adaptation remained key. Chapter 5. Lawsuits, bans, and legal pressure. By the 2000s, attacks against the Bandidos shifted from streets to courts. Prosecutors aimed to dismantle the club as an organization, using RICO statutes to link crimes directly to the hierarchy. In 2006, Washington state leaders faced conspiracy charges for meth and cocaine distribution. In 2009, Texas members faced murder and narcotics charges. Europe acted even more aggressively. German states banned the Bandidos after repeated clashes. In 2014, the Netherlands declared the group illegal nationwide, and an appeals court upheld the ruling in 2018, citing a culture of violence. Denmark imposed a temporary ban in 2024, Sweden deported foreign members in 2025, and Houston prosecutors indicted 14 members from the Welcome to Hell chapter. Governments framed these measures as essential to protect public safety. Despite these pressures, the Bandidos adapted. Some chapters went underground, others rebranded, and recruitment continued where enforcement was weaker. Yet every court battle chipped away at the club's ability to operate openly. Chapter 6. Internal conflicts and leadership struggles. Expansion brought power, and power brought ambition. Disputes over money, territory, and leadership escalated. National presidents struggled to command widely spread chapters, and some regions outright rebelled. European factions broke away in the late 1990s, challenging international leadership. Defections carried sensitive knowledge into rival clubs, raising stakes. Leadership errors worsened internal crises. Favoring certain chapters, inconsistent rules, and purges led to deadly consequences. In Canada, 2006's Shedden massacre saw 8 bandidos executed by fellow members over a financial dispute. In Australia, a dispute in Sydney fractured the chapter, resulting in kidnappings, torture, and murders. In Scandinavia, feuds continued violently. In Finland, former President Marco Herzma's expulsion in 1999 set off a bloody conflict, ending in his assassination in 2001. Even in recent years, Texas saw splinter groups like Kinfolk form, leading to further violence. Despite internal wars, the Bandidos endured, adapting hierarchies but maintaining the global network. Chapter 7. Media portrayals and public perception. Media shaped how the Bandidos were perceived. From Texas to Europe, outlets framed them as criminal empires rather than brotherhoods. Coverage of arrests, shootings, and raids reinforced their violent image. By the 1990s, international reporting linked them to the Nordic biker war, presenting a global menace. The club attempted image management with charity rides, toy drives, and veteran support. But these stories were drowned out by headlines of murder, raids, and funerals. Public perception mattered. Fear justified government crackdowns and attracted new recruits seeking notoriety. By the early 2000s, the Bandidos became a cultural archetype, representing the outlaw biker globally. Chapter 9. Legacy and Transformation. Today, the Bandidos remain active in 20 countries. Survival depends on navigating courts and law enforcement as much as street dominance. In 2025, 14 Houston area members were indicted under RICO for violent turf wars with a rival group called Beast. Europe mirrored this pressure, with Denmark banning the national branch and over 100 members defecting to the Hells Angels in some regions. Despite legal and internal challenges, the Bandidos endure. Some chapters operate underground, others maintain a visible presence. The myth of brotherhood continues to attract new members, proving that even against governments, rivals, and time, the patch remains a symbol of resilience. The war for dominance in the outlaw world is never truly over, and the story of the Bandidos continues to unfold. The code: loyalty, silence, and the Bandido way. Every outlaw motorcycle club has rules, but the Bandidos' internal code is something closer to an unwritten constitution, strict, unforgiving, and enforced with consequences that outsiders rarely understand. To become a Bandido is to accept a lifelong contract, carried not in ink, but in bone. The code teaches members that loyalty comes before survival, silence is armor, and brotherhood is bigger than blood. Prospects are expected to ride hours across states for small tasks, answer calls at any hour, and endure months, sometimes years, of discipline. A prospect who hesitates is a liability. A prospect who obeys becomes a soldier. Members are expected to show up for court hearings, funerals, hospital visits, and retaliation without question. Inside the club, silence is not just a rule, it's a culture. Members are taught to speak in signals, gestures, and glances that communicate more than words ever could. A hand on a shoulder means stop talking. A tap on the table means switch topics. A subtle nod means follow. Money earned through club activities is distributed through channels known only to officers. Weapons are shared, protected, and moved around like chess pieces. Feuds are handled internally. Arguments are settled behind closed doors. What happens in the club stays in the club, permanently. To betray the code is to betray the family, and betrayal is unforgivable. Expulsion rituals are intense, and tattoo removals are symbolic erasures of brotherhood. The code isn't just rules, it's a psychological glue that makes the Bandidos operate less like a club and more like a military organization disguised as a brotherhood on wheels.